In Times Square, there's a stretch of block where a single digital billboard can rent for over $50,000 a month just to sit in rotation with a dozen other advertisers, each one getting their 8 seconds before the screen cycles to the next brand. Buy the whole screen instead. An exclusive takeover, no rotation, nobody sharing your airtime. And operators will quote you contracts running $1.1 to $4 million a month. Not a year. A month. For a rectangle of light bolted to the side of a building in Manhattan. That number should stop you. Because a billboard, physically, is one of the cheapest structures you can build. So you want to own a billboard? Let's take it apart. Most people price a billboard the way they'd price a shed. They picture the steel pole, the metal face, maybe a spotlight, and they assume that's the asset. Buy the materials, hire a crew, bolt it into the ground, and you own a billboard business. That's the naive version, and it's wrong in a way that matters because the steel is the cheapest, most replaceable part of the entire operation. Anyone with enough cash can build a sign. What almost nobody can do is get permission to put it where it actually makes money. And that permission, not the pole, is the entire business. Here's the part that breaks people's intuition. The real asset isn't the structure, it's the permit. In 1965, the federal government passed the Highway Beautification Act, which restricted new billboard construction along interstates and federal highways, effectively freezing the supply of legal roadside advertising real estate in huge stretches of the country. Cities went further on their own. Los Angeles passed an ordinance in 2002 that halted new bulletin billboard construction inside city limits entirely. Riverside banned new billboards outright. Once a city closes the door on new permits, every billboard that already exists becomes something closer to a taxi medallion than a piece of construction. A fixed, non-reproducible license that happens to have a steel sign attached to it. And because the number of permits is frozen while the number of advertisers isn't, operators fight brutally over spacing rules, because spacing is what determines how many of these frozen assets can exist per mile. Lamar, the largest billboard company in the country, has pushed cities to require 1,000 feet of separation between structures, while some cities only mandate 500. And that 500-foot gap is worth real money because it's the difference between a handful of permits along a corridor and twice as many. Now, the physical structure still costs something, and it's worth knowing the range, because it tells you how small a barrier the hard costs actually are compared to the permit. A standard static billboard needs a steel monopole, which runs $30,000 to $80,000, plus a concrete foundation to keep it upright in wind, another $15,000 to $40,000. All in, a complete static structure typically lands somewhere between $20,000 and just over $100,000. That's the entire cost of entry, materials, and labor for the version of the business people think they're buying. Digital is a different animal. A digital LED billboard runs anywhere from $100,000 to $500,000, and a premium highway installation, dual-faced, tight pixel spacing so the image reads crisp at highway speed, can blow past $750,000 before you've paid a cent for power. Add another $5,000 to $25,000 just to get electricity and data connectivity run to the site. Because a digital board isn't a sign anymore, it's a networked screen that needs bandwidth to receive new creative remotely. So the entry price for the modern version of this business is 5 to 10 times what it was for a steel pole. And yet operators are converting as fast as they can, which tells you the economics on the other side of that spend are worth it. For people who don't want to run the advertising business at all, there's a quieter way in. You just own the land. A lot of billboards don't sit on land the operator owns. They sit on a ground lease, where a landowner collects rent from Lamar or Clear Channel or whoever operates the sign and never touches the ad sales side of the business at all. That income typically runs $300 to $5,000 a month or more, and the spread inside that range is almost entirely about location. The same billboard type, same structure, same lease terms, might pay a landowner $2,000 a month outside Dallas and $20,000 a month in Chicago. Same sign, 10 times the rent. Because what you're actually being paid for isn't the dirt, it's the eyeballs that pass over that dirt every day. That location premium shows up even more violently on the advertising side. Across the country, a billboard's ad revenue can run anywhere from $500 to $50,000 a month or more, depending on the market, the format, and the traffic count. Here's the detail nobody budgets for. That range isn't a smooth curve, it's a cliff. A rural static board might book $500 a month for years. A digital board in Times Square typically books $20,000 to $50,000 a month just in normal rotation. And the truly iconic locations, One Times Square, the NASDAQ Tower, can command over $100,000 a month for an exclusive spot, before you even get into the full takeover contracts running into the millions. Location isn't a factor in this business, it's almost the entire business. So why is every major operator racing to rip out static boards and replace them with digital ones, given how much more expensive digital is to build? Because a static billboard can only ever be sold to one advertiser at a time for as long as their contract runs. A digital billboard can rotate through 8, 10, 12 advertisers a day on the same physical structure, which means one permitted location. The same scarce, frozen, unreproducible piece of real estate can now generate revenue from a dozen tenants instead of one. You didn't create a new billboard. You just multiplied the yield on a permit you already controlled. Lamar's own numbers show exactly how well that's working. In the second quarter of 2026, the company posted revenue of $616.74 million. Across the first half of the year, net revenue hit $1.14 billion, with net income of $266.5 million and an adjusted EBITDA margin, a measure of operating profitability before interest, taxes, and non-cash charges, not the same thing as a net profit margin, that hit a company record of 49.2%. Digital revenue was up 15.4% year over year. Programmatic revenue, meaning ad inventory sold and bought automatically through software rather than a sales call, was up 50% year over year and now makes up roughly 10% of digital billboard revenue. Lamar now operates more than 5,600 digital displays, making it the largest digital billboard network in the country. So who's actually getting rich here? It's not the landowner collecting $2,000 to $20,000 a month on a ground lease. That's real money, but it's rent, not an empire. It's not even the operator who builds one static billboard and sells ads on it themselves. That's a small business with a nice margin, capped by one sign in one location. The money concentrates at the top, with companies like Lamar that hold thousands of permitted, grandfathered, legally protected locations across the country, then layer digital conversion and programmatic ad sales on top of that fixed, permit-locked real estate. And here's the part that makes the position almost unassailable. No competitor can build a new billboard in that exact spot to undercut them because the permit doesn't exist to be issued. The city closed that door decades ago. So here's the whole thing in one line. A billboard isn't a sign you build, it's a permit you inherit, and the fortune belongs to whoever already owns the spot the government stopped letting anyone else stand in.